What if everything you thought you knew about the birth of Archie Harrison was a lie? No, really, stop for a second. Think about it. The royal baby whose photos were plastered across every front page, the child hailed as the bridge between monarchy and modernity, the one who symbolized a new dawn for the royal family. What if the woman the world celebrated as his mother had been hiding a secret so explosive, even Buckingham Palace didn't know what to do with it? That's the claim Samantha Markle has just made. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. And Meghan? She didn't see it coming. Not from her sister. Not like this. Not now. But maybe she should have. Because while most of the world was busy praising Meghan for her Hollywood meets House of Windsor glow-up, there were a few who noticed the cracks. Inconsistencies. Moments that didn't quite add up. A baby bump that seemed to move like a magician's prop. A birth certificate that raised eyebrows. Staff resignations that came just a little too conveniently. And then there was Samantha, the estranged half-sister, labeled everything from jealous to unstable, who suddenly went quiet. For years. Until now. Christmas morning. Meghan was sipping coffee in Montecito, wrapped in luxury and holiday warmth. The kids were giggling in another room, Harry scrolling aimlessly on his phone. It should have been a perfect day. Then the phone rang. It wasn't a call Meghan was expecting. It wasn't even a call she wanted. But what she heard on the other end shattered her calm and sent her scrambling for damage control. Because it wasn't a tabloid. It wasn't a troll. It wasn't some distant blogger spinning a wild theory for clicks. It was someone from inside the palace. Someone who had just spoken to Samantha Markle. And Samantha, apparently, was done being silent. The whispers started fast. Then came the headlines. Samantha had agreed to appear on an independent podcast, one she'd carefully selected. Not mainstream, not flashy, but raw and unfiltered, the kind of platform that wouldn't cut or edit the story to fit the palace narrative. And in that hour-long bombshell interview, Samantha dropped a truth bomb that made jaws drop across the globe. Meghan was never pregnant with Archie, and I can prove it. Hold up. This wasn't just some bitter sibling airing dirty laundry. This was a direct accusation, a challenge to one of the most sacred public narratives in royal history. The Duchess of Sussex, faking a pregnancy, using a surrogate, misleading the Queen, lying to the world? If true, this wouldn't just be a scandal. It would be a full-blown constitutional crisis. The British royal family runs on lineage. Bloodlines. Birthright. If Archie's birth didn't happen the way it was presented. Or worse, if Meghan wasn't biologically involved, what would that mean for his royal status? His titles? His citizenship? His place in the line of succession? And more importantly, why would Meghan lie about something so monumental? Samantha claims she knows why, and she says it's more disturbing than anyone could imagine. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. To understand just how explosive this claim really is, we need to rewind. Revisit the build-up to Meghan's pregnancy announcement. Rewatch the interviews. Re-examine the photos. Dissect the timeline. Reopen every single sealed door. Because that's where this story gets truly unsettling. Do you remember when Meghan first stepped out with that baby bump? Royal fans were euphoric. The monarchy, once again, was modernizing before our eyes. An American actress, biracial, divorced, outspoken, was now carrying the next royal baby. It felt revolutionary. It felt like history. But even in those first few appearances, the whispers had already begun. The bump looked strange. It didn't move like a real bump should. In some clips, it appeared smaller than before. In others, it seemed to shift in shape, even direction. And once, during a widely circulated walkabout in Birkenhead, eagle-eyed fans caught something truly bizarre. The bump seemed to fold. Not sag. Not compress. Fold, like fabric. The footage went viral. But defenders were quick to jump in. Lighting, angles, Photoshop, anti-Meghan trolls. Pick your explanation. The mainstream press dismissed the speculation as absurd. Yet the online chatter never quite went away. In fact, it grew louder. Still, nothing compared to what came next. Meghan refused to participate in the traditional Lindo wing photo op, the same one Princess Diana and later Kate Middleton had honored after each birth. You know the one, standing outside the hospital, cradling the newborn, smiling at the world. Meghan said she wanted privacy. Critics said she wanted control. Then came the baby shower. Lavish. Private jet. A New York penthouse. Celebrity guests. Zero palace approval. What should have been a joyous moment sparked global backlash. But looking back now, some speculate the shower wasn't just indulgent, it was a distraction. A well-orchestrated smokescreen designed to steer the media's attention elsewhere. Why? Because around that same time, according to leaked messages Samantha claims to have seen, Meghan's team was in crisis mode. Reports indicate that palace staff were forced to sign aggressive NDAs. Medical professionals were replaced or dismissed without warning. One assistant even quit suddenly, citing unbearable pressure and secrecy. And yet, the palace remained silent. Always. But silence can be its own form of communication, can't it? Especially in royal circles. Samantha alleges that the palace knew more than they let on, that certain aides had been suspicious from the start, that Meghan's timeline didn't match the hospital logs, that no official documentation of a birth existed, at least not in any known facility. And now, years later, those same suspicions are bubbling to the surface again. But why now? Why is Samantha coming forward with all this now, in 2025? The timing is no coincidence. This year marks a critical moment in Archie's royal life. With the king's recent health crisis, questions of succession and legitimacy are no longer hypothetical, they're urgent. Legal teams have quietly begun reviewing documentation. Titles are under scrutiny. Citizenship laws, particularly around birthright and parental involvement, are being reinterpreted in a post-Brexit, post-Meghan royal landscape. And Samantha? She's watching it all unfold. From Florida, she's been gathering receipts, interviewing former staffers, tracking social media timelines, connecting with sources deep inside the royal machine. And she claims to have found something that links Meghan's pregnancy to a woman who was paid to disappear, a woman who matches the birth window, who has ties to a known royal insider, whose online presence vanished shortly after Archie's birth. Who is she? That's the question Meghan doesn't want anyone asking. But here we are. The walls are closing in. The interviews are coming. And for the first time since Archie's birth, the story is unraveling at the seams. So where does that leave us? With 1,000 questions, a dozen theories, and one undeniable fact. Samantha Markle is back. And she's not just throwing punches, she's aiming for the knockout. Meghan, by all reports, is scrambling. Her legal team is on alert. Crisis PR strategies are being quietly deployed. Netflix executives are asking questions. And somewhere deep within the palace, old files are being pulled from archive storage, just in case. Because the stakes? They've never been higher. We're about to explore the world behind the curtain. The cover-ups, the contradictions, the secrets you were never meant to hear. But what comes next might just rewrite royal history as we know it. What makes someone stay quiet for years and then suddenly decide to talk? Especially when that someone is Samantha Markle, the half-sister of one of the most scrutinized women in modern history. The woman who once threatened to write a tell-all and then disappeared into silence. Until now. But why now? Why does Samantha pick this exact moment, after years of lawsuits, documentaries, and media noise, to step forward and drop what might be the most explosive claim yet? Let's start there. It wasn't a press conference. It wasn't a national interview with a high-profile anchor. No, Samantha chose something different, something intimate, unpredictable, and raw. A podcast, not a mainstream one, not BBC or CNN. She picked a mid-level, independent UK podcast called Behind the Veil, hosted by a former Fleet Street journalist turned royal critic. The host wasn't interested in sensational headlines. He wanted depth, the kind of depth tabloids don't allow. And that's exactly what he got. The episode dropped unannounced. No trailer, no teaser. Just a thumbnail of Samantha's face, aged but defiant, sitting across from a mic. And the title? The Secret They All Knew, Samantha Markle Speaks. Within minutes, it was trending. And within hours, Meghan's team was already dialing lawyers. But let's rewind to the actual interview. Because what Samantha said wasn't just bitter family feuding. It was deliberate, calculated, measured, and disturbingly specific. The host opened gently, asking about her current life, her health, her quiet years out of the spotlight. Then, without warning, he asked, "Samantha, do you believe Meghan was ever pregnant with Archie?" There was a pause. Then, Samantha looked straight into the mic and said, "No, I don't. And I have reason to believe the real story is much darker than anyone has dared to tell. Boom. Silence followed. The kind of silence that makes you hold your breath, waiting for a punchline that never comes. But Samantha wasn't joking. She leaned in, fingers interlocked, eyes unwavering. She continued. When Meghan first announced she was pregnant, our family had already been cut off. No phone calls, no emails, nothing. But I still had contacts, people who knew people. And when I started hearing strange things, I kept notes. She opened a file. Yes, a literal file. A worn black folder that she pulled from her lap and placed on the table. The host, visibly stunned, asked if it was real. Samantha nodded. Inside, printouts of emails, handwritten names, a tab labeled Medical Timeline, another labeled Press Conflicts, a third simply read, Surrogate? She explained. One contact, who worked adjacent to Meghan's team during the New York baby shower, mentioned that the entire event felt like a distraction. Not a celebration, just an orchestrated PR move. And that Meghan's behavior was odd. Odd how, the host asked. She kept mentioning how liberating it was to not have to deal with stretch marks or swollen feet. Now, on its own, that could mean anything. But this wasn't a private joke. It was said in front of people who were under strict NDAs. And some of those NDAs, I've seen them. They weren't written by palace lawyers. They came from a private agency tied to California. Wait, what? This wasn't just palace secrecy. This was something more American, more entertainment industry-esque. The kind of discretion reserved for celebrities hiding affairs or pregnancies or surrogates. But Samantha wasn't done. She claimed she had spoken, indirectly, to a woman who allegedly shared a flat in London with a medical worker around the time Archie was due. That medical worker? She claimed there was no record of Meghan being admitted to any UK hospital under royal security protocols. Now, that doesn't mean she didn't give birth, but it does raise a very uncomfortable question. Where was she? Was she overseas? Was she in a private, unregistered facility? Or was she never in labor at all? Samantha didn't answer those directly. Instead, she shifted. She pulled out something else. A photo. A grainy, low-resolution shot of what appears to be a woman, not Meghan, entering the back of a medical facility in California during the exact week Meghan was reportedly in labor in the UK. Same bodyguards. Same vehicle license plate as one previously linked to Meghan's entourage. And the woman? Visibly pregnant. But her face is obscured. And without further verification, it's just an eerie coincidence. Or is it? The host, now visibly unnerved, asked the next logical question. Samantha, if this is all true, why haven't you gone to the press before? Why now? Her answer? Because I was scared. Not for me, but for what it would unleash. Then she paused. Her tone shifted. I'm not saying this because I hate Meghan. I'm saying it because the truth matters. You can't build an empire on lies. Not when it involves a child. Not when it rewrites history. It was a sobering moment. But here's where the twist came. Samantha revealed that she had been approached multiple times in 2020 and 2021 by publishers offering huge sums for exclusive rights to a tell-all. She refused. Why? Because none of them wanted the truth. They wanted scandal, manufactured drama, fluff. But now, with legal documents surrounding Archie's titles being reevaluated and a whisper campaign growing inside the UK's conservative media, Samantha felt her window to be heard was closing. So she came prepared. She brought receipts. Even if those receipts haven't been independently verified yet, the details she shared had enough texture, enough plausibility, to rattle more than just Meghan. But perhaps the most jaw-dropping part of the interview wasn't what she said. It was how she said it. Calm, clear, no rage, no visible bitterness, just quiet resolve. That's what made it chilling, because it didn't feel like a grudge. It felt like a warning. And yet, as always with Samantha, questions remain. Is she telling the truth? Is she embellishing for attention? Is this revenge dressed in reason? Let's not forget, Samantha has her own credibility issues. She's previously clashed with Meghan on social media. She once wrote a manuscript titled The Diary of Princess Pushy's Sister. She sued Meghan for defamation and lost. Public opinion on her has been complicated. But this interview? It felt different. Less tabloid. More calculated. Like someone who'd spent years collecting threads, and finally decided to weave them into a narrative that can't be ignored. And here's where things get even darker. At the end of the interview, the host asked her, "If you had the chance to sit with Meghan face to face, what would you say?" Samantha didn't blink. "I'd ask her one question. Why did you lie about being Archie's mother?" And then she dropped the line that set the internet on fire. "Because I know who the real mother is." And she didn't disappear. She was erased. What? Who? The host tried to press. But Samantha refused to name names. Not yet. She said she was saving that, and the rest of her evidence, for a legal proceeding. And maybe, for a documentary. The interview ended there. But the storm was just beginning. Clips began circulating online. Hashtags exploded. Hashtag SurrogateGate trended worldwide within hours. Podcasts, YouTube channels, independent reporters, all scrambling to verify her claims. And Meghan? She went radio silent. No Instagram posts. No Archwell updates. No smiling paparazzi walkabouts in Montecito. Just silence. Except for one thing. That evening, a single, tightly worded statement was released by her legal team. "These claims are categorically false, deeply offensive, and part of an ongoing campaign of harassment. The Duchess of Sussex remains committed to protecting her family's privacy and will pursue all legal remedies available." But that's not all. Inside sources revealed that Meghan's lawyers immediately began issuing cease and desist letters. Not just to the podcast host, but to anyone attempting to re-air the interview without commentary. Damage control was in full swing. But something felt different this time. The usual defenses weren't landing. The usual media allies weren't rushing to defend her. Even Piers Morgan, normally the most vocal Meghan critic, was silent, as if everyone was waiting to see if Samantha was bluffing, or if this was the moment the dam finally breaks. Because if she's telling the truth, everything changes. The public image, the royal lineage, the baby photos, the press tours, the Oprah confessions. All of it collapses. But what came next would be far worse than anyone expected. Where do conspiracy theories begin? Not with facts. Not at first. They begin with something far more dangerous, a contradiction. Something doesn't match. A timeline that feels off. A photograph that looks wrong. A detail that was overlooked the first time, but starts to glow under closer inspection. That's exactly how this one began. And if Samantha Markle's bombshell interview was the explosion, then the fuse was lit years ago. By thousands of internet users, online sleuths, bloggers, ex-royal staff, and even former medical professionals who all noticed the same thing. Something about Meghan Markle's pregnancy with Archie just didn't add up. Let's go back to the beginning. October 2018. Kensington Palace releases an official statement. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex are very pleased to announce that the Duchess of Sussex is expecting a baby in the spring of 2019. The news hits just as Meghan and Harry land in Sydney, Australia for a high-profile royal tour. Timing. Impeccable. Optics. Perfect. Meghan glows. Harry beams. The media explodes with congratulations. But then, something odd happens. Just 48 hours into the trip, eagle-eyed fans begin pointing out how Meghan's bump seems unusually prominent for someone supposedly only 12 weeks pregnant. Speculation begins, but it's drowned out by the wave of positive coverage. No one wants to ruin the fairy tale. Still, the speculation doesn't go away. A Twitter thread emerges in early 2019, posted by an anonymous account with only a few hundred followers. It's titled, "The Meghan Bump Files." At first glance, it's nothing more than obsessive fandom. But dig deeper, and it's a meticulous catalog of photographs, videos, and interviews, all arranged to track the size, position, and behavior of Meghan's baby bump throughout her pregnancy. And some of it is alarming. In one clip from January 2019, Meghan bends down to pick up a fallen bouquet. She squats, knees fully bent, in 4-inch heels. Pregnant women in their third trimester generally don't, and can't, do that. More curious, the bump doesn't shift. It doesn't compress. It behaves as if it's detached externally. Then there's the infamous folding bump moment. During a live appearance in London, Meghan sits down and the bump appears to crease at the center, like fabric. Not skin, not muscle, fabric. The clip goes viral, but major outlets call it an optical illusion. Case closed? Not quite, because by now, online communities have caught wind. Forums like Lipstick Alley, Reddit, and even YouTube commentary channels start dissecting Meghan's maternity wardrobe. Some find it odd that her clothing always seems theatrical, draping, bulky, as if deliberately trying to hide something or create something. Then someone posts a screenshot from a company called Moonbump, a UK-based prop manufacturer specializing in fake pregnancy bellies for actresses. The company's website shows a product that looks eerily similar to Meghan's silhouette at 5 months. The forums erupt. Wait, is this real? Is it possible that Meghan used a prosthetic? Moonbump later issues a vague statement denying any sale to the Duchess. But they also confirm that many of their clients use aliases, and they never disclose identities. Suspicious? The conspiracy theorists think so. But let's pause here, because not everyone who questioned Meghan's pregnancy did so out of malice. Many were, and still are, fans, supporters, people who admired her rise and were genuinely confused when the pieces didn't fit. What threw them wasn't just the bump. It was the invisibility of everything else. Where were the traditional milestones? There were no ultrasounds shown, no hospital pre-visits reported, no maternity ward sightings, no midwives seen entering the home. And then, there was the birth itself. Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor was reportedly born on May 6, 2019 at 5:26 a.m. But something was off. At 2 p.m. that day, a media release from Buckingham Palace stated that Meghan had gone into labor, not that she had already given birth. Hours later, a quiet update was posted confirming Archie's arrival. So, why announce the labor after the birth had already happened? The timeline didn't make sense. Speculation exploded again. But then came the biggest twist of all. The birth certificate. Released weeks later, it confirmed the place of birth as the Portland Hospital in London. A private hospital, not the Lindo wing where Kate had all her children. But here's what caught people's attention. Despite giving birth in a private medical facility, there was zero documentation or press presence on the day. No nurses spoke. No hospital staff posted selfies. No leaked hallway photos. Nothing. Compare that to Kate's births, where even with tight security, at least something always emerged. Here, radio silence. And that silence spoke volumes. Then, another online researcher discovered something chilling. The Portland Hospital has an entire underground entrance system designed to accommodate VIP clients, including foreign royals, celebrities, and yes, surrogates. Could Meghan have used this to facilitate a different arrangement? We don't know. But the theory exploded. What if? Just what if? Meghan had used a surrogate and pretended to be pregnant to control the narrative. To protect privacy? To maintain a certain public image? Would it be legal? Yes. Would it be unprecedented in royal circles? Absolutely. And that's where the theory becomes nuclear. Because if Meghan used a surrogate without disclosing it to the crown and presented herself as the biological mother, that could create serious implications for Archie's royal standing. Now add to this the fact that Meghan was an American citizen at the time. If a surrogate had been used, and she was not the biological mother, and the child was not born on UK soil or to a UK citizen, Archie's status as a British citizen and as a potential heir could be called into question. At this point, what began as online speculation started creeping into legal discussions. Former royal aides, speaking anonymously, said they'd heard whispers of surrogate arrangements. One even suggested that a staffer had been tasked with destroying medical correspondence. Another claimed Meghan had refused to allow royal doctors to examine her before the birth, something that had never happened before in modern royal history. The press, of course, refused to touch it. Too dangerous, too legally murky, too scandalous. But the forums kept growing. Then came Lady Colin Campbell, a royal biographer and frequent Meghan critic. She publicly said during a live interview in 2020 that she had reason to believe Meghan had not carried Archie. She stopped short of making a direct accusation, but her phrasing was precise. I've heard things, and they did not come from fringe sources. That single comment ignited a firestorm. More commentators began questioning the official narrative. A former body language expert who had worked with royal security came forward on a podcast and said, her walk was off. Her center of gravity never changed. By month 7, most pregnant women moved differently. She didn't. And that brings us full circle. Because now, in 2025, those quiet suspicions have been supercharged by Samantha's public claims. What was once an online theory has now been thrust into the mainstream, and people are starting to connect dots. Why did Meghan keep her birth plan a secret? Why didn't the Queen ever meet Archie in public during the early weeks? Why was Harry evasive when asked about the birth in interviews? And why is there such a fierce legal wall surrounding any discussion of Archie's early life? Is it privacy or protection? Protection from what? That's the question. And just when you think the conspiracy can't get any wilder, someone finds a deleted social media post. From a now-defunct account, a photo surfaces of a woman bearing striking resemblance to Meghan in a maternity clinic in California, dated March 2019, 2 months before Archie's reported birth. She's heavily pregnant. She's flanked by 2 bodyguards who bear an uncanny resemblance to Meghan's security detail. And the post? It's captioned, "Counting down the weeks." Who was this woman? Why did the post vanish within minutes? Why did the account get deleted? And why was the photo scrubbed from reverse image search databases? All of this is circumstantial. Nothing has been definitively proven, but the questions won't go away. And now, with Samantha promising to name the surrogate, and with palace insiders refusing to confirm or deny her claims, the theory is no longer just a theory. It's a bomb ticking louder by the day. Because if Meghan did use a surrogate and lied about it, what else has she lied about? And what secret is she still hiding? The answer may lie in a single phone call made on Christmas Day, a call Meghan never expected, because someone from the palace had finally decided to speak. And what they said next would unravel the entire royal birth story. It was supposed to be the quietest Christmas Meghan Markle had enjoyed in years. No cameras, no flashing lights, no awkward curtsies or fake smiles. Just her, Harry, the kids, and the glow of Montecito's elite calm. There were candles flickering on marble countertops, gingerbread cookies shaped like crowns, a tree so tall it nearly touched the vaulted ceiling. From the outside, everything looked perfect, until the phone rang. And just like that, everything changed. Not even the butler recognized the number. It was patched through from a secure line, a former palace extension, now long deactivated. But someone on the other end still had access. And they weren't calling to say Merry Christmas. They were calling to warn her. Meghan had just set her mug of organic herbal tea on the counter when the call came through. She glanced at the screen. Unknown. Untraceable. She hesitated, then answered. At first, silence. Then a voice she hadn't heard in years. Meg, it's me. For a split second, she didn't react. Couldn't place the voice. Then it hit her. It was someone from the palace, someone who had worked deep within the communications office. A man she trusted once. A man she thought had stayed loyal even after she and Harry pulled the plug. His voice trembled. You're going to want to sit down. Her stomach dropped. He continued. She's going public. Your sister, Samantha. She's not bluffing this time. Meghan rolled her eyes. She's always going public. She lives for this. Let her rant. But the voice was firm now. No, this time it's different. She has something. Something she's been keeping quiet. She's doing a podcast interview. Tomorrow. Meghan stiffened. Something about what? A long pause. Then he said it. About Archie. About the pregnancy. Silence. Meghan didn't speak. Her knuckles whitened against the marble countertop. Harry walked into the room and saw her expression shift from irritation to pure dread. What about it? She finally asked. She says she has proof that you never carried the baby. Meghan's lips parted slightly, but no sound came out. The voice continued. She's claiming you used a surrogate. That you lied to the public, to the Queen, that Archie's real mother is someone else. Another pause. And Meghan, she says she's naming names. It felt like the walls in Montecito started to close in. Not again. Not now. Not with so much on the line. Meghan didn't flinch. She'd been trained for moments like this. She went full damage control. Calm, sharp, focused. Who else knows? I don't know. But she's been reaching out to people. Former staff. Medical personnel. Even journalists. Meghan snapped her fingers. Find out who. Now. Harry looked at her, concerned. What's going on? She didn't answer him. She was already dialing her legal team. But the voice on the other end wasn't finished. There's more. She claims someone in the palace helped cover it up. Or at least knew about it. She's suggesting the institution was complicit. Meghan's breath caught in her throat. That was the nuclear threat. Not just dragging her, but dragging the crown. If Samantha painted this as a royal-level cover-up, the damage wouldn't be limited to Montecito. It would travel across continents, across generations. Harry's face turned pale. What the hell is she saying? Meghan mouthed 2 words, the pregnancy. He shook his head. She's bluffing. But Meghan wasn't so sure. She hung up the phone and stood frozen in place. Because Samantha had waited for a reason, and she knew exactly where to strike. Within hours, Archewell was in full lockdown. Lawyers were called. Crisis PR was activated. Emergency Zooms with Netflix and Spotify were held. One executive, who had been quietly reviewing Meghan's upcoming motherhood docuseries, reportedly texted a colleague, "If this surrogate thing's real, we're screwed." Internally, the question wasn't whether Meghan had used a surrogate. The question was, had she covered it up illegally? Because surrogacy in itself wasn't the issue. It's legal. It's common in Hollywood. But if Meghan had intentionally misled the crown, especially while receiving taxpayer-funded security, medical privileges, and royal titles for her child, that changed everything. It became fraud. And more terrifyingly, it became a threat to royal protocol. Harry began pacing the hallway, calling his own network of friends back in London. Most were tight-lipped. But one former aide texted him back, bluntly, "You knew this would come out eventually. You just didn't think it'd come from your sister-in-law." Harry didn't reply. Meanwhile, Meghan's legal team flagged potential re-uploads of the podcast. They requested takedown notices. But it was already too late. Clips were being sliced, captioned, reposted across TikTok and X. One 40-second snippet, where Samantha says, "I know who the real mother is," hit 12 million views in under 8 hours. And then, Meghan got a second call. From someone inside Kensington Palace. The voice was different. Colder. More formal. It was a warning. Samantha's claims are gaining traction, and certain members of the family believe it might be in the monarchy's best interest to distance themselves. Meghan's mouth went dry. "You mean they're going to throw me under the bus?" A beat. Then the voice replied, "They won't throw you under the bus. But they're not going to protect you either." Click. That night, Meghan didn't sleep. She kept scrolling, kept reading. She found old videos, old tweets, threads she'd ignored for years. One from 2019 caught her attention. A woman in London claimed she saw Meghan in a cafe during a week she was supposed to be on bed rest. Said she looked oddly flat-stomached. Another post claimed someone from the Portland hospital had been offered money to speak, but declined due to extreme legal pressure. And then there was the folding belly video. She'd forgotten how viral that one had gone. Now it was back. Reposted with captions in 5 different languages. She looked at Harry. They're going to believe her. He didn't answer, because he wasn't sure they wouldn't. Back in London, the podcast had triggered something no one expected. One minor royal, not senior, but with close ties to Prince Andrew's side of the family, reportedly told a journalist off record. "We all thought it was strange. The secrecy, the staff turnover, the way Meghan always controlled the optics. But we were told to shut up. Now it's all coming out." And another leak? Even more damning. A palace email thread from 2019. Subject line, Medical Clearance Protocols, Duchess of Sussex. One line stood out. Per her team's request, no royal physician shall attend or observe the birth. All medical matters will be handled privately. Why? Why would Meghan refuse a royal physician? Even Diana had allowed it. So had Kate. It was protocol, not just tradition, but protection. Unless there was something to hide. The next morning, as the sun rose over California, Meghan was still wide awake. The podcast was now featured on 3 news sites. 2 UK morning shows had already covered it, and royal reporters, many of whom had been blocked by Meghan years ago, were suddenly getting calls from anonymous sources. One tabloid editor tweeted, "We've been sitting on these rumors for years. If Samantha has receipts, it's game over." Meghan stared at her phone. Then she made a decision. She called her lawyer and said one word: fight. But even as her team began drafting a public statement, even as NDAs were pulled and countersuits explored, a private message pinged into her inbox. It was from a name she hadn't seen in years. A woman she thought had moved on. Vanished. Paid to disappear. It read, "You told me I'd never be found. But they're asking questions. And I won't lie for you anymore." Meghan's hands trembled. Because that name was the same one Samantha was preparing to say out loud. the alleged real mother of Archie. And she was done being silent. What if a single photo could destroy a carefully crafted illusion? What if hundreds of public appearances, broadcast live to millions, held microscopic clues to a truth too explosive to be spoken aloud? Because that's exactly what's now being claimed about Meghan Markle's pregnancy. And it all comes back to one thing: the bump. It was supposed to be the symbol of a royal fairy tale. But now, it might just be the smoking gun. Let's rewind to early 2019, a time when Meghan Markle was basking in the glow of royal motherhood. Every tabloid was fawning. Every headline was soaked in admiration. Modern Duchess, Meghan glows in maternity chic, the most stylish royal bump ever seen. She had it all: the adoration of fans, the approval of fashion critics, even a custom maternity wardrobe that reportedly cost over $500,000, funded in part by Prince Charles. But behind the flattering headlines, something strange was happening. And people were starting to notice. Public appearance after public appearance, Meghan's baby bump seemed inconsistent. One day, it looked prominent and round. The next day, it was small, then large again, then seemingly gone. And we're not talking subtle changes here. We're talking full-on transformations, from beach ball to grapefruit to pancake flat. Fans began asking the question nobody wanted to ask. Was Meghan wearing a fake bump? Let's break down the timeline. Event 1. The red dress in Birkenhead, January 14, 2019. Meghan stepped out wearing a tight-fitting red dress that accentuated her belly. She was reportedly around 6 months pregnant. But in video footage from that same day, the bump seems to shift unnaturally as she bends. Some viewers slowed the footage down and claimed the bump actually dropped, as if it weren't connected internally to her body. Others noted that when she crossed her legs to sit down, the bump folded, not compressed. Folded. And here's the kicker. Even the Daily Mirror ran a headline about how fans were baffled by her baby bump shape. It wasn't just internet trolls anymore. It was the mainstream media, carefully, cautiously, admitting something was off. Event 2. The Morocco Tour, February 2019. This one was major. Meghan was 7 months pregnant by this point. Yet footage from the Morocco trip showed her squatting down, quickly, in 4-inch heels, to pet a small child. No signs of discomfort. No difficulty standing back up. For anyone who's been pregnant, or even seen someone in their 3rd trimester, you know that movement is not only difficult, it's borderline impossible in heels. The press praised her agility. Critics screamed fraud. Why is no one talking about this? One user posted on Reddit. My wife is 7 months pregnant, and she can barely get off the couch. Others began comparing photos from the Morocco trip to ones taken just 5 days earlier at a London gala, where Meghan's bump looked twice the size. How could it fluctuate so much? Lighting? Camera angles? Or something fabricated? Event 3. The Wimbledon Belly Vanish, July 2019. Now this one shocked even the skeptics. Meghan attended Wimbledon, sitting in the royal box beside Kate Middleton. She was around 8 months pregnant, by official count. But the photos told a different story. In some angles, the bump was completely gone. Flattened. Invisible. She wore a white button-down blouse tucked into high-waisted jeans. Yes, tucked, with not a single bulge. Not even a curve. What pregnant woman, in her final month, wears tucked-in denim? Doctors were confused. Moms were furious. Conspiracy theorists were vindicated. She's not even trying to hide it anymore. Someone tweeted. This is performance art. Event 4. The moon bump theory emerges. That's when a specific term began circulating online. Moon bump. Moon Bump is a UK-based company that manufactures prosthetic pregnancy bellies for film, theater, and private use. One of their products, a soft silicone bump that straps around the back and sits under clothing, looks identical to what Meghan was sporting during several of her public outings. Their website even showcases models doing everything Meghan was caught on tape doing: squatting, walking, bending, stretching, all while wearing the bump. Soon, screenshots of Meghan's appearances were being compared side by side with Moon Bump's promotional material. The resemblance? Unsettling. Event 5. Oprah's interview flashbacks. Fast forward to 2021. In the Oprah Winfrey interview, Meghan references her pregnancy, describing how difficult it was, how isolated she felt. But critics quickly noticed something strange. Oprah never asks a single follow-up about the birth itself. No questions about labor. No details about the hospital. No inquiries about complications. For an interview touted as raw and unfiltered, the entire pregnancy segment is surprisingly sterile. And Meghan? She's all emotion when discussing mental health, race, and rejection by the institution. But when it comes to motherhood, she's guarded, almost rehearsed, as if the script had already been written and could not be deviated from. Event 6. Palace staff leak anonymous tip. Shortly after Samantha Markle's podcast interview went viral, a former palace staffer, who had signed an NDA in 2019, allegedly contacted a journalist under condition of anonymity. Their claim? I was tasked with moving garments in and out of Frogmore Cottage. On more than one occasion, I saw medical-grade body molds in protective cases. One was clearly shaped like a pregnant belly. The source insisted they didn't know for sure who the props were for. But the implication? Clear. The belly wasn't growing. It was being stored. Why would she fake it? That's the question everyone's asking. If, and it's a massive if, Meghan did use a surrogate and chose to wear a prosthetic to appear pregnant, why? Theories range from PR image to controlling the narrative. Some say she wanted to avoid postpartum scrutiny. Others say she feared criticism for using a surrogate while being positioned as the modern royal mother. But here's where it gets dangerous. Because Meghan wasn't just an actress playing a role. She was a royal. And the crown has rules. If she presented herself as the biological mother to secure titles, funding, or legal privileges, and she wasn't, that borders on fraudulent misrepresentation. It's not just a lie. It could be a constitutional violation. The public reacts. Now, with Samantha Markle fueling the fire and online detectives revisiting every bump photo, the public is split. Half the internet still supports Meghan fiercely. They believe it's all misogyny, racism, conspiracy nonsense. The other half, they're demanding DNA tests. Comments on social media range from the skeptical to the outright furious. She played the entire UK for fools. Imagine faking a pregnancy while living on taxpayer money. This is bigger than Meghan. This is about monarchy accountability. One tweet simply read, "It wasn't a bump. It was a prop. And we fell for it." The palace's deafening silence. Perhaps the most suspicious part of all, the palace has never commented. Not once. Not to deny. Not to defend. Not to clarify. Even during the peak of the moon bump rumors in 2019, not a word. But now, sources inside say the silence is strategic. A palace aide told a reporter, if it's true, they can't admit it. If it's false, they risk drawing more attention. So they're staying quiet. For now. But how long can they keep quiet? Especially now, after what Samantha's about to reveal. Because she's not just pointing fingers anymore. She's naming names. And she's handing over something else. A photograph. One taken just days before Archie's birth. Not of Meghan, but of someone else. A woman with the same bodyguards. The same car. And a belly that was very, very real. If there's one truth the British monarchy lives by, it's this. The staff sees everything. And for decades, they've been trained to say nothing. But every now and then, something leaks. And in the case of Meghan Markle's alleged pregnancy scandal, those leaks, quiet, subtle, always anonymous, are starting to flood. Because what Samantha Markle has hinted at is now being echoed, quietly, carefully, by those who once walked the halls of Frogmore Cottage, Kensington Palace, and even Clarence House. The people who steamed her dresses, loaded her private cars, handled her deliveries. And yes, those who were present during her so-called pregnancy. They're starting to talk. And what they're saying is chilling. Let's start with one of the most dramatic red flags. The staff exodus. In 2018 to 2019, during the exact window of Meghan's supposed pregnancy, a staggering number of royal aides and private staff either resigned or were reassigned. Here are just a few names that disappeared from the palace roster within months. Melissa Tabati, Meghan's personal assistant, quit after just 6 months, reportedly left in tears. Samantha Cohen, the Queen's former press secretary, who had been appointed to help Meghan transition into royal life, quit in 2019. Amy Pickerel, assistant private secretary to Meghan, quit around Archie's birth. Now, resignations happen, but 3 in a row? All women directly connected to Meghan's day-to-day life during her pregnancy? That's more than coincidence. It's a pattern. And according to one former palace insider, speaking anonymously to a UK tabloid, the staff were under immense pressure to not ask questions. The source claimed, "None of us were allowed to discuss her medical schedule. She kept everything private, to the point where it became suspicious. Medical staff were brought in we'd never seen before. Contracts were shredded. NDAs were pushed under our noses constantly." Another aide added, "There was one time, and I'll never forget this, when Meghan walked into a fitting with what looked like a 6-month bump. The next day, for another engagement, it was barely noticeable. I remember whispering to a colleague, 'Wasn't she bigger yesterday?' And they just gave me this look. That don't you dare look." And then, there was the staff nickname, Project Moon Bump. That's what a few junior aides allegedly started calling Meghan's pregnancy behind closed doors. At first, it was a joke, office gallows humor. But by February 2019, it had taken on a darker tone. Because some staff reportedly believed it wasn't a joke at all, they started noticing changes in schedules. Meghan skipping royal health checks. External cars coming in late at night, unregistered. Medical waste bins removed in secret. And most damning, a staffer claimed to have seen what looked like a maternity prosthetic belt sitting on a dresser, the kind used in films. They were told to say nothing. But now, they're whispering everything. Let's talk about security. Royal security is tight. Everything is logged. Every guest, every doctor, every delivery, there's a record. But when it came to Meghan's pregnancy, things went dark. One former royal protection officer, retired now and living abroad, gave this cryptic quote to an independent reporter. "I've guarded pregnant royals before. Meghan's situation didn't follow protocol. That's all I'll say." Another guard claimed, "There were times we were pulled off shift without explanation. Private cars would arrive and park directly at the back. No logs. No clearance needed. That doesn't happen unless someone higher up authorizes it." So who authorized it? And why? Why bypass standard procedures for someone who, at the time, was only sixth in line to the throne? Unless what was happening needed to be hidden. Then there's the matter of the hospital riddle. In a typical royal birth, palace staff liaise with medical officials weeks in advance. Security is staged. Nurses are vetted. A royal doctor is assigned, someone with clearance, access, discretion. But in Meghan's case, the palace's own official medical team reportedly never examined her. Dr. Alan Farthing and Dr. Guy Thorpe-Beeston, both senior royal gynecologists, were said to have been on call, but never activated. Why? Why would a first-time royal mother, especially one constantly in the spotlight, refuse the crown's best doctors? Meghan later claimed she didn't want men in suits managing her birth. But critics point out that even Diana accepted their care. So did Kate. It wasn't about optics. It was about trust. And Meghan didn't trust them. Or maybe she didn't need them. Because if no labor was happening, if the birth was happening elsewhere, then those doctors were a liability. One staffer allegedly confided to a friend, she didn't need royal doctors because there was no baby being delivered at Kensington. The birth happened somewhere else. We all knew it. That friend, she posted the story anonymously. But Samantha Markle found it, and she included it in her evidence folder. Then came the wardrobe handler, a lesser-known employee tasked with managing Meghan's maternity looks, steaming, transporting, prepping. She was one of the last staffers to resign before Archie's birth. She never spoke publicly. But according to leaked messages, she once texted a colleague after seeing Meghan try on a body-hugging dress. "She's flatter than me, and I'm not even pregnant. What the hell is going on?" Those messages were never published. Until now. Samantha Markle claims she has them, in print. She says they'll be included in her legal counterfile if Meghan's team tries to sue. And based on how specific they are, her claims may be hard to dismiss. The kicker? One staff member, let's call her Claire, has since moved to New Zealand. Far from the royal bubble, she's reportedly been approached by multiple journalists. So far, she said no. But recently, she told a friend something strange. That friend, in turn, told a podcaster. Claire said if the truth came out, it wouldn't just damage Meghan. It would burn the whole institution down. Because everyone, from Charles to Camilla to William, knew. They just didn't act. This isn't just staff gossip anymore. It's institutional complicity. It's palace-level silence. And here's where things get even darker. Because one of the last remaining threads, one that never made the headlines, is tied to a shipment. A package that arrived at Frogmore Cottage 2 weeks before Archie's birth. Unmarked. From California. It was logged by a junior staffer, and then erased from records 48 hours later. That package, according to an anonymous whistleblower, contained documents and photos related to a U.S.-based birth plan. It was destroyed under discretionary privacy clauses. No one spoke of it again. Until now. Because Samantha Markle? She claims to have a copy. Not the whole file, but a scanned image that was accidentally emailed to her in 2019 by someone inside the palace. An image of a birth plan, addressed not to Meghan, but to a woman named HR. Initials only. Date, March 12, 2019. Expected delivery, April 28 to May 5. Location, Santa Barbara. Name of guardian, redacted. Samantha won't reveal the full image yet, but she's ready to submit it in court. And as for the staff, more are coming forward. 1. A former driver, recently said on background. I took someone to the airstrip. It wasn't Meghan, but it was her security, and she was very pregnant. He didn't say who, but Meghan's Montecito phone has been pinged recently by a burner number registered in California, the same state where the surrogate, the one Samantha hinted at, allegedly still lives. And now, that woman is no longer unreachable, because Meghan just got a letter, hand-delivered, no return address. Inside, one sentence, I won't stay quiet anymore, and neither will they. What if a single sheet of paper, one scanned file, could destroy an entire royal narrative? Not a tabloid, not a rumor, a document, with names, dates, hospital codes, and Samantha Markle claims to have it. Up until now, everything has been speculation. Photographs, public appearances, whispers from former staffers who never went on record. But this is different. Because documents speak. They don't gossip. They don't bend. They don't blink. And according to Samantha, the documents in her possession don't just suggest Meghan Markle wasn't pregnant with Archie. They confirm it. Let's rewind. After her viral podcast appearance sent shockwaves through the royal watching world, Samantha Markle vanished, intentionally. No follow-up interviews. No press run. No Instagram rants. She went dark, which only added to the tension. Then, exactly 5 days later, an independent news outlet released a teaser. Black background. White text. The files are real. No logo. No byline. Just a ticking clock sound effect. At first, people thought it was a hoax. Then the outlet confirmed Samantha had provided them with scanned documents, allegedly from a private U.S. medical facility. Documents that directly tied a woman, not Meghan, to the delivery of a male infant born between April 28 and May 5, 2019. That's Archie's window. The woman's name? Redacted. But her initials? HR. The same initials from the birth plan Samantha referenced earlier. The same ones in the erased shipping log from Frogmore Cottage. Now things were heating up. Because if these documents are real, if they can be verified, then Meghan Markle didn't just use a surrogate. She falsified her public image. And worse, she may have allowed, or orchestrated, the concealment of the true mother's identity, which, in royal terms, is more than scandal. It's constitutional treason. So what's in the documents? Let's break them down. According to the leak, Samantha provided the following. A birth admission intake form from a private clinic in Santa Barbara, dated April 28, 2019. A pre-birth surrogate contract summary, listing an anonymous intended parent number 1, FS, and intended parent number 2, HM. A postnatal handoff release with a checkbox for transfer of custody to non-biological guardian at time of discharge. And most disturbingly, a neonatal records log listing the infant as baby boy Windsor with a medical note released to designated legal guardian. Maternal ID non-matching. Wait, maternal ID non-matching? Yes. In medical terms, this phrase is used when the woman claiming maternity does not match the biological or birth record profile. In surrogacy cases, it's a standard formality when everything is transparent. But if this file was hidden, if the public was told otherwise, then it becomes something else entirely. Deception. And the fact that Windsor, the royal family surname, appears on the file, that takes this straight into the heart of the monarchy. But let's pause. Could the documents be fake? Absolutely. That's what Meghan's legal team immediately argued. A statement was released within hours of the teaser drop. These alleged files are fabricated. The Duchess has never been under investigation for surrogacy fraud, nor has she misrepresented any details regarding her pregnancy. We urge the public to be cautious in spreading defamatory content. But here's the problem. The clinic listed on the intake form? Real. The hospital code? Valid. The staff's signature, partially visible? Belongs to a registered nurse who mysteriously resigned in May 2019. And guess what else? That nurse has since vanished from all professional databases. Gone. Deleted. That's not normal. And it gets worse. Because Samantha claims this isn't the only document. She says she has 10 more pages, each one connected to the same woman, HR. She hasn't released those. Yet. Why? According to a trusted source close to Samantha, she's saving them for one reason. Court. Because as Meghan's legal team gears up to file a defamation suit, Samantha is preparing a full legal defense. And she's coming armed. With affidavits. With expert witnesses. And yes, with medical documentation. And here's the twist. One of her expert witnesses? A former royal OBGYN who allegedly refused to go along with the official pregnancy timeline. They were quietly retired in late 2019. They've never spoken publicly. But now, they've agreed to testify, under oath, if the case goes to trial. According to a source, they don't want to smear Meghan. They want the truth on record. They've carried this knowledge for years. And if they speak, the palace can't ignore it anymore. Let's talk about the money trail. Samantha's documents include one more crucial piece, a payment log. Specifically, a wire transfer from a European holding account to a California-based agency that specializes in reproductive services. The amount? $268,000. The date? December 2018. Just weeks before Meghan announced her pregnancy publicly. Coincidence? Maybe. But here's what's more intriguing. The payer listed on the invoice is not Meghan Markle or HRH, the Duchess of Sussex. It's MH Enterprises Limited, a company registered in Guernsey. Guess what else is registered there? A handful of shell companies tied to royal security funds, used to manage private travel, security clearances, and discrete transactions. And here's where the theory becomes harder to dismiss. Guernsey company law allows anonymity, which means this payment, if made by a royal proxy, could have been buried indefinitely, unless someone leaked the account details, which, according to Samantha's team, is exactly what happened. They claim a whistleblower, possibly a former accountant, sent them the wire log via encrypted message in late 2023. The metadata checked out, and the account? Now frozen. But not before screenshots were taken. Now here's the million-dollar question. Who is HR? Who is this woman whose name appears on the Santa Barbara clinic file? Who gave birth to a baby boy days before Meghan presented Archie to the world? And who, if Samantha is to be believed, was erased from the narrative, scrubbed from the story entirely? Samantha won't say. Not yet. But sources say she has a name, a face, and a photograph, and she's ready to release it. Under one condition. If Meghan sues her. Because that lawsuit, currently being threatened, would trigger full document disclosure. And if that happens, Samantha says she'll subpoena the real mother. She'll call her to testify, and she'll release every single page she's been holding, even the ones that mention the name of the person inside the palace who authorized the deception. That's right. According to Samantha's legal brief, the document trail doesn't stop with Meghan. It leads to a royal, a senior royal, someone who helped coordinate the media blackout, security protocols, and staff gag orders. And when their name drops, it won't just be Meghan who's exposed. It'll be the monarchy itself. One final twist. As Meghan's team prepares to push back, quietly contacting press outlets, flagging uploads, threatening legal action, something unexpected happens. A media outlet based in France receives an anonymous Dropbox link. Inside, a voice memo. A woman, nervous, breathing heavy, says, "I was there. I saw the file. I signed the birth release. I didn't know what I was signing at the time, but I remember the baby. He had red hair." Then silence. The memo ends. The metadata? Traced back to Santa Barbara. Sent from a burner device. Then destroyed. And Meghan? She's now bracing for a subpoena. Because Samantha isn't backing down. She's going for the jugular. And what she's about to drop next won't just expose a surrogate. It might expose a royal co-conspirator, a name Meghan never wanted spoken out loud. But it's coming. And when it drops, everything changes. She was never supposed to be found. No public record. No photographs. No interviews. Not even a last name attached to the story. She was the ghost in Meghan Markle's perfect narrative, a name erased from every official record, a body hidden behind locked doors, a role played offstage while the world watched the wrong actress. But now, Samantha Markle claims she's found her, the real mother of Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor, the woman Meghan never expected anyone to trace. And the name? Hannah R. Let's begin with what Samantha Markle won't say. She hasn't published the full name. Not yet. She claims it's out of respect for privacy and strategic timing. But she's dropped just enough to make the internet go nuclear. Here's what we know. The woman is American, born in 1991, formerly worked in wellness and holistic care, was based in Santa Barbara from 2017 to 2020, allegedly connected to a high-profile surrogate agency known for serving discreet, celebrity clients. And crucially, she disappeared from public-facing employment records in March 2019. The dates match. The location matches. But what tipped Samantha off? It started with a comment on an old Reddit thread. Years ago, during the peak of the moon bump conspiracy chatter, a now-deleted account posted something strange. I used to know a girl who did something big for a royal family. She moved out of the country right after. Was told